Welcome to Your Hero Academia by Fangirl48 on AO3. Chapter 14. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Aizawa kept pacing with the youngest Ida, moving as fast as he could to the area All Might was holding his class. Neze was already waiting with Recovery Girl at the infirmary, ready to deploy the robots if necessary. Meanwhile, Midnight and Cementos were on standby in case Midoriya had gone crazy again. Both heroes ready to use their quirks as a last resort if Aizawa failed to claim the all-or-nothing user down. Walking down the door, Aizawa let out a small sigh of relief. None of the class looked seriously injured, though Todoroki was staring down at one of his hands with an unreadable expression. "Yo, Sensei!" A cheerful voice came from next to Aizawa. Glancing downwards, the dark-haired man saw Sero, grinning with Midoriya curled up in his lap, sleeping. A large blanket covered them both. "Sorry I can't get up and greet you properly right now. I'm kinda stuck under here." Aizawa kneeled down, reaching out and pushing back some of Midoriya's green hair. A large bruise was already forming on the boy's temple. Something must have hit him hard, or Midoriya got tousled or into something. "What happened?" Some of the students who had been watching the match glanced backwards. All Might gritted his teeth, wishing he could go over there, but his time limit was fast approaching, and they still needed to complete everyone's battles. "Kubo-sensei!" An excited voice carried out as something, or rather someone, jumped onto Aizawa's back. "The hero course is so much fun! I have so many ideas for new babies, and I found a wife." "Shouldn't you be watching the matches?" Sero asked. May rolled her eyes. "My wifey can handle those guys easily. Plus, Charming will probably make a copy of the security tapes later to obsess over. I'll just grab a disc from him." Activating his capture scarf, Aizawa tied the pink menace on his back before turning around and looking at her. "What are you doing here?" May just smiled and laughed as she wiggled. "Charming called Pink Code." "And what, pray tell?" The underground hero spoke calmly. He had a horrible feeling that the two problem children of his first year were be difficult to separate, but Aizawa hadn't anticipated that they would create their own secrets of codes. Nor did he know how many different types there were. "Is Pink Code." "Duh!" May wiggled slightly, getting one of her hands free and pointing to her head. "Support problem." The inventor waved her hand, beckoning the underground hero closer as she leaned in, dropping her voice slightly. "Look at some of these costumes. This is naked, but don't tell anyone else. I only figured it out because of my goggles." Zero felt the blood rush to his face, while Aizawa choked slightly, glancing up to where a pair of floating gloves talked to Ojiro. Having been a student when Midnight attended UA herself, the underground hero knew what was awaiting him in the future. The blown back of Midnight's homeroom teacher was horrified back when she first debuted. Powerloader better have some students who know how to work with support tiles in one of his classes, or know a graduated veteran company that did. "Hold on," Aizawa said, raising an eyebrow. "You know how to make support fabric. I thought your admission invention was a bunch of capture scarves." "I also made something for people who need special clothing." May nodded, pointing at her bag. "I call it the DN brush. It takes the hair that falls out naturally when brushing your hair and weaves it together in the handed. Once there's enough hair, you'll be able to bring it to your local Hatsumi industry and repress clothing. Though I still need to find someone who can create the fabric first. It's not as easy as some people think." Aizawa raised an eyebrow at the thought. With all the restrictions on support items for the general public, the inventor fought an uphill battle, both against the government, HPSC, and rival companies like Deltra. But judging from her face, Powerloader's headaches didn't seem to care. In fact, May looked like she was already ready to take on the world and win. "All right." Aizawa nodded, moving over to problem 2 right now. What did you say about a wife? Hearts appeared in the inventor's eyes as she turned and looked at the screen, showing the ongoing battle. I finally found the perfect work wife, May answered, looking at Yaoyorozu as she summoned another item. Her quirk is amazing. She's gotta be smart as hell to use it too. Not to mention strong and creative. Imagine all the babies we can make together. Aizawa suddenly wanted to take Yaoyorozu and hide her away. Nothing good would come from the recommendation student and the inventor hanging out. It was bad enough that May got along with Nezu. That was a mystery to the faculty. Before he could open his mouth, however, Midoriya whined, hugging Sero closer. The tape user froze slightly before adjusting the blanket so make sure his classmate stayed covered. Right. Aizawa knelt back down in front of the pair. Problem Child's episode. What happened? All Might told me to tell you that it looked like Midoriya had a bad reaction to Todoroki's quirk, Sero explained. Midoriya freaked out when Todoroki used his ice against him. Ice. Aizawa face-palmed, wondering why they ever thought of that before. Izuku had said he'd been frozen for nearly 2 centuries. Why hadn't they thought before seeing his reaction to extreme temperatures? Thinking about it now, it would probably be a good idea to test out some other scenarios before letting Izuku out into the field. UA could handle these sort of problems internationally, but it would be another matter along if Midoriya had an episode and it got back to HPSC. Is anyone hurt? Aizawa asked the students. Actually, Midoriya's the one who got hurt. Sero gestured to the green head on his shoulder. He hit the ice pretty hard before freaking out, and I had to knock him down and hit him to slap him out of it. Gave Todoroki and Shojiro a run for their money, though. The underground hero would have sent the pair to Hound Dog's way shortly. Even seasoned pros like the staff had gone to talk to the guidance counselor after their first incident over a year ago. Aizawa gave the tape user a small pat on the head. I don't know the whole story yet, but it seems you took care of things. Good job. Zero felt a warm feeling blossom in his chest. Nodding shyly, the tape user helped pass the partner to the teacher. Aizawa moved Midoriya onto his back, like he gave the boy a piggyback, using his capture scarf to secure the boy where he was, while Sero covered them with a blanket. If anyone didn't know any better, they would think Aizawa was smudging something under the fabric. Sir? Uraraka shyly stepped forward, looking at the covered Midoriya. Will he be all right? More students looked back now. I'm taking him to go see Recovery Girl now. Aizawa nodded, looking towards All Might. Nezu and I will need to see you later to review the tapes. I understand. The number 1 hero nodded. Right now, All Might's primary concern was that neither Nezu, or most likely Toshinori himself, would have to call All for One. Nezu had shared at the beginning of the year that he had a little doubt that the villain had spied in the popular shops and cafes that the student visited. People who listened into student gossip sent anything they deemed worthy enough to the ancient villain. Transparency was tricky as it was vital at the moment. One wrong move, one perceived threat to his little brother, and who knows what All for One would do. Aizawa sighed, looking back at May, who was almost vibrating where she stood. Hatsumi, I can't make you leave, but come to the infirmary when class is over. What? Golden Eyes looked confused. Why? Because Problem Child and Power Loader had a deal about you that I'm following through on. Dark eyes narrowed slightly as the returning students arrived. Yaoyorozu's eyes immediately found the inventor's form, and she quickly hurried over to where Jiro and Koda were standing. Plus, I think we need to talk about a few things. May pouted, crossing her arms, and nodded. All right, then. Aizawa adjusted his hold on Midoriya. Everybody behave yourself for the rest of the class, remembering I will be reviewing the footage later, along with All Might, and I know if you're acting unfit for future heroes. A few of the class 1A gulped. Trying to break the tension, All Might laughed. All right, then, moving on. Who can tell me what we learned from this battle? A couple of students raised their hands. He what? All for One yelled over the phone. How? I believe that the fall was one reason he lost control so easily. Nezu slipped his tea, looking down at the phone. Izuku has a nasty bruise and a headache, but is otherwise alright. Except that his quirk went out of control. All for One growled over the phone. That's unbelievable? Impossible. The villain denied the sound of harsh breathing coming in over the speaker. The others may not be able to pick up on it the same as Nezu, but the principal could clearly make out the sounds of machines every time All Might breathed. If Nezu was a gambler, the villain was just as hurt, if not more than Toshinori had been, meaning there was only a handful of doctors in all of Japan who could have treated him, even less that could have continued treating, going after 5 years now. My brother has more control over his quirk than anyone I've ever met or taught, the eldest Shigaraki argued. Even if I was jealous of him sometimes for how quickly he was able to figure quirks out. All Might frowned. So Izuku had never had a problem before. Quite the opposite, actually. When he was little, after his friend passed away, there was a time when Izuku refused to use his quirk. The villain admitted surprisingly. But the kind soul that he was, Izuku later saw that he needed to know how to fight if he was going to protect himself and the others. This proves my theory, then. Nezu took a sip of his tea. Izuku does have some triggers that set him off, though he can't remember the events clearly. Whatever happened when he was forced into cryogenics pod has traumatized him. I could have told you that, All for One hissed angrily, like one of Aizawa's cats whenever Nezu got too close to them. How are you the smartest person in Japan after me? You're mistaken. Nezu gave a furrowed grin. I am clearly smarter than you. Why you? Gentlemen, peace. All Might pulled his hands out. You're both smart, all right? Let's not argue over who's smarter. Obviously, I am. The pair said together. All Might sighed and leaned back. The number one hero was suddenly wishing he could trade places with Aizawa. The underground hero had insisted on staying with Izuku and May in the infirmary, a safety precaution in case Izuku woke up panicked. Instead, Toshinori was here trying to stop his greatest enemy and Nezu from acting like school children comparing for the top-ranked spot on the exam. Izuku will have to be separated from 1A. What? All for One gasped. Why? My brother is the victim here. It is just temporary, the hero assured the villain. Izuku expressed interest in meeting the students from 1B. Having him spend the day with them might be good for everyone. You better not be using my brother to give those brats shortcuts, All for One declared. Izuku's too nice to say anything, but he is not your own personal analyst. No, but he is a teacher here. Nezu smirked as the villain made a gagging sound. Then, it's settled. We will have Izuku shadow Vlad King and 1B tomorrow, and I'll set up an appointment for him with Hound Dog to discuss what happened today. Looking back now, ice and cold should have been obvious to us. All Might looked at the phone oddly and twiddled his fingers. We're Oh, stop that. The ancient villain interrupted. I get it. You're sorry. It does no good when you should be focusing on my brother's health, All Might. The number one hero clenched his fist in his lap. It won't happen again. It better not. The number one villain replied with an unsaid threat hanging. There was a minor lapse of silence from everyone. Katsudan. What? Izuku. All for One sighed, leaning back on his chair. His favorite meal is katsudan. Our head maid would have it made when Izuku was upset. Katsudan. That shouldn't be too difficult for a culture genius like Lunch Rush to make. I will, of course, be expecting an update by the end of the week, All for One demanded of the heroes. Of course. Nezu nodded. If anything else happens, we will let you know. There was a deep sigh on the other end. Things were so much easier when Tomura was around. He knew how to handle Izuku when he was upset better than I. Unknowingly, All for One planted a seed inside Toshinori's head. Maybe, the number one hero licked his lips nervously. Maybe we could have Tsukuachi see about making copies of the yearbook he found for Izuku's middle school. His middle school. They have yearbooks dating back to when Izuku attended, Toshinori admitted. The hero prayed he wouldn't hear about the school's destruction shortly. Maybe there's a picture of Tomura as well, assuming you all attended the same school. Tomura was homeschooled. All for One answered quickly, not waiting for the heroes to look further back and find his own embarrassing middle school pictures. But you have given me an idea. An idea? Toshinori was panicking slightly. What idea? All for One gave a dramatic laugh before hanging up the phone. Oh dear. Nezu looked at his colleague. Now you have done it. What did I do? Okay, I'm gonna read the author's note because this is funny, okay. Author's note. Can you imagine what All for One would be like at a parent/teacher conference? Even if I don't end up doing one, just thinking about it makes me laugh. Well, that and All for One and Nezu acting like a pair of mean girls, while poor All Might tries to keep them from killing each other. I love that. I love that. I want that. I want that. I need that, you know? But yeah, this is very interesting. But yeah, I want to see how this develops and seeing. Because clearly we know that Izuku didn't used to get his quirk out of control. So this could either be one, he has PTSD, which is messing with his quirk, right? Or two, in that facility or whatever he was trapped in, they mess with his quirk. Whichever one it is, I'm very interested to find out. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Join our community Discord server, link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content. And thank you so much for watching.